Living Joyful Alone. The Truth About Friendship in Old Age 1. The Silent Beauty of Growing Older, Alone. There's something quietly powerful about reaching a stage in life where you're no longer chasing people. You stop trying to prove your worth through constant connection. You're not desperately attending reunions or forcing conversations that feel more like obligations than joy. Instead, you sip your tea in silence, let the afternoon sun warm your hands, and realize, this peace, it's earned. You don't fear being alone. You savor it. Now, don't get me wrong. We've all been taught that growing old alone is some kind of tragedy, as if solitude is something you suffer through, not something you choose. But what if the story we've been told is upside down? What if aging alone on your terms isn't a failure, but a freedom? You know what? It might actually be the best kept secret of getting older. 2. What friendship really means. At 60, 70, 80, let's be honest, friendship doesn't look the same at 70 as it did at 60, 27. Back then, it was about shared chaos, late-night calls, impromptu road trips, oversharing and overpromising. It was loud, messy, and often full of people you didn't even really like, but you needed the noise. Now, you don't need it. You crave depth, not drama. You want someone who understands silence, who doesn't take offense when you don't text back immediately, or at all. Friendship shifts. It becomes less about quantity and more about quality. Less about always being there and more about still being real when you are. You don't need a circle anymore. You need a dot. And sometimes that dot is just you. 3. Letting go without guilt. People drift. It's not personal, it's seasonal. Some friends fade with time. Old coworkers you never really bonded with. Neighbors who moved. Acquaintances who stopped calling. And you know what? That's okay. We have this tendency to cling to relationships because we feel we're supposed to. Like there's a rule book. Keep all childhood friends. Return every call. Make time for coffee even when you're exhausted. But that rule book, burn it. It's okay to let go. Not with resentment, just with peace. If someone no longer brings light into your life, or worse, they drain it, you are not required to keep them around just because they've known you for 40 years. You're allowed to outgrow the past. You're allowed to move forward lighter. And no, you don't owe anyone an explanation. 4. When solitude feels sweeter than a room full of people. There's a strange moment that happens somewhere around 60, maybe earlier, maybe later. You walk into a social gathering, maybe a dinner, a party, or even a family function. And instead of feeling energized, you feel tired, not just physically, emotionally, because it's all noise, all posturing, small talk, smiles with no meaning behind them. You realize you'd rather be home, eating soup, listening to old music, or reading a book you've already read 5 times. And you know what? That's not antisocial. That's awareness. Solitude isn't lonely when it's chosen. It's like returning to yourself after decades of being everything for everyone else. It's not a retreat from life. It's a return to it. 5. Redefining fulfillment. You don't need a crowd. Somewhere along the way, we were taught that a full life requires a full calendar. Invitations, events, coffee dates, holiday parties. But here's a secret most people don't realize until much later. Most of that stuff is filler. True fulfillment. It's quiet. It's watching a bird land on your windowsill, smelling fresh-cut grass in the morning, listening to the rain, finding joy in a perfectly folded towel or a hot shower, or that first bite of breakfast when you're actually hungry. You don't need more people to feel more alive. You need more presence. You don't need a busy life. You need a meaningful one. 6. Friendships that feel like peace. Let's talk about the kind of friendships that still matter, the ones that don't feel like a performance. You know them, the ones where you can go 6 months without speaking and then pick up right where you left off. No guilt, no awkwardness, just that quiet understanding that life happened, but the bond is still there. Friendships that don't take energy, they give it. You don't have to entertain them. You don't have to be on. You can just be. Sit on a porch in silence. Walk through a grocery store aisle together. Share a memory or don't. This kind of friendship, it feels like home. And here's the best part. When you learn to be content alone, you attract these kinds of people because they see your peace and they respect it. 7. Digital bonds in the golden years. Now let's address the elephant in the room, the digital world. Yes, it's overwhelming sometimes. All the scrolling and hashtags and filters, but when used right, it can actually feel like a lifeline. You'd be surprised how many people in their 60s, 70s, and beyond are finding real warmth online. Facebook groups where strangers become friends, WhatsApp chats with long-lost cousins, even a YouTube comment section that turns into a support group. It's not about replacing in-person connection. It's about expanding what connection can look like. So don't let anyone make you feel like you're too old for the internet. Connection has no age limit, and loneliness doesn't either. 8. How to nurture yourself as a friend. Here's the thing no one teaches you when you're young. You are your own most constant companion, so how do you treat yourself? Are you kind to yourself in silence? Do you forgive yourself quickly, the way you would a friend? Do you celebrate your tiny wins? Or are you harsh, critical, always trying to do better? Self-compassion isn't a trend. It's a necessity, especially as you grow older. Learn to make your own company a pleasure to keep. Cook yourself a beautiful meal, even if no one else is there to eat it. Speak softly to yourself when you're feeling off. Dance alone in your living room. Laugh at your own jokes. Take yourself seriously, or not. Be your own sanctuary. 9. Emotional independence, the real fountain of youth. People often chase physical youth, anti-aging creams, supplements, trendy diets. But emotional independence? That's the real secret to staying vibrant. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can weather your storms. You're not waiting on someone to save you. You're not hoping for someone to complete you. You already feel whole. Emotional independence means you can sit with discomfort and not panic. You can feel lonely and not crumble. You can enjoy someone's company but not need it like oxygen. And oddly enough, that self-sufficiency, it makes you magnetic. It makes others feel safe around you. Because you're not draining anyone. You're not begging for love. You are love. You radiate peace. 10. You're allowed to outgrow everything. Even people. One of the most liberating lessons of growing older. Outgrowing people is not betrayal, it's evolution. We think that because someone's been in our life for decades, we owe them a permanent seat. But what if their energy no longer matches yours? What if every conversation leaves you tired? What if the connection is more about history than harmony? You are not a museum of old relationships. You're allowed to say, that chapter was beautiful, but it's over. And yes, sometimes that means letting go of roles too. Maybe you were always the caretaker, the fixer, the peacemaker. But now, maybe you don't want to be those things anymore. You're not selfish. You're simply becoming more you. 11 rituals that replace relationships. Rituals are powerful. They ground us when relationships shift. They become our quiet companions when friends grow distant or pass away. Maybe it's watering plants every morning, lighting incense before bed, writing a journal entry with your coffee, feeding the birds, watching the same sunrise spot. Rituals don't talk back. They don't flake. They don't expect. They just show up with you. And through them, something magical happens. Your life starts to feel rich, predictable in the best way, like there's meaning in your minutes, even the still ones. In a world obsessed with company, rituals remind us we can create intimacy with time itself. 12. The unexpected friendships. You still can make now. Don't think for a second that just because you're older, new friendships are off the table. Some of the sweetest connections come when you least expect them. A warm chat with the barista who remembers your name. A fellow walker at the park who smiles the same time every morning. the neighbor you finally talked to after 10 years, the local librarian who starts recommending you poetry. They're not dramatic, not needy, not demanding, just gentle presences. These low-maintenance, high-warmth bonds are underrated, and they're everywhere, if you're open. You don't need to seek, just soften. 13. When family becomes a friend, or not at all. Family relationships in old age are tricky. Some get closer, some drift, some become beautifully redefined, and some don't. That's the hard truth. Just because someone is your blood doesn't mean they're your friend. Sometimes family causes more stress than strangers. Sometimes they don't call, or they show up only when they need something. And you know what? That doesn't make you unlovable. It just makes them themselves. If a family relationship grows into a friendship, beautiful. If not, let yourself find love elsewhere, in community, in pets, in small daily comforts. You get to choose who feels like home. It doesn't have to be DNA. 14. The joy of not being needed. Once upon a time, you were probably needed all the time. Maybe you were a parent, a manager, a partner, a caregiver. You wore those roles with grace, but you also bore their weight. Now, maybe no one needs you in that same way. At first, it can feel like loss, like your value has disappeared. But then something strange happens. You begin to breathe again. You begin to ask, what do I want? The freedom of not being needed is underrated. It means your day belongs to you. Your energy is yours again. You don't have to fix or solve or serve. You can just be, not useful, not productive, just fully, gloriously present in your own skin. 15. Living joyful alone is not a defeat, it's a mastery. Let's say it clearly, once and for all. Being joyful alone is not a backup plan. It's not a consolation prize, it's a mastery. It's the quiet power of knowing who you are and loving what you find. It's the ability to entertain your thoughts, to hold your own hand, to sit in a room without filling it with noise. Solitude is not a punishment, it's a presence. It deepens your spirituality, it heightens your sensitivity, it clarifies your boundaries, and most of all, it makes joy simple again. You don't need fireworks, just a chair, a window, and time to think. This is not loneliness, this is liberation. Final thoughts. When you walk alone, you walk freely. You don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to apologize for your peace. You don't need to fake smiles or force ties that no longer fit. You're allowed to be joyful. Alone. Wildly, peacefully, authentically joyful. And that, my friend, is not the absence of something. It's the presence of everything that finally matters.